Cyberpunk 2077 made headlines again about its failure, and this was because of Upper Echelon Gaming doing a video and then now basically a series of videos about this and the Cyberpunk 2077 fail or its failure and why exactly did it happen. We're going to be reacting to that content. We do like to do reaction content on this channel. I try to make it more dialogue and discussion oriented. I'll be pausing the video, adding my own thoughts. We are going to try to watch all of what he has said because he had to do some clarification after the fact because of some bad reporting by the gaming industry and then some clarifications that came from some other people. So I'm going to redirect people over now from the stream. We did one this morning on the God of War Ragnarok release date, and that was a really enjoyable stream. If you like this kind of reaction content, I open every day with a talk show, and then reaction content is usually next in line, and we had a really, really great start to the day breaking down Ragnarok, and really, really enjoyed that and that discussion. So let me get my headphones on here. And let me get my my chat popped out, and okay, the music's just really low. Are we on the right playlist? We are. Oh, it was the end of a song. I always do that. I swear I always put my headphones on, and it's like the end of a song. Now, I don't know if he has music in the video, so I try to make sure and have my music off if they have music in theirs. Guys, remember, this is a brand new stream, so be sure to switch to live chat and smash the like button. All those things help us out immensely. So let's take a look at what he has to say about this.
Okay, today is possibly a very important video. June 23rd at precisely 9:34 a.m., I received an email. This email was from a whistleblower claiming to be an employee of Quantic Lab. For those that don't know, Quantic Lab is a QA testing company, an outsourced quality assurance company, to be precise, operating out of Romania. Initially intended to be a game development company, that business model proved unviable at the time, and a transition was made to quality assurance. Quantic Lab has a bit of a bumpy history. After bankruptcy early on, they were acquired by THQ Nordic, and then in late 2020, finalized in 2021, I believe, they were acquired in a bulk purchase by Embracer Group, which is an industry powerhouse. Specifics and timeline aside, Quantic Lab has operated as a QA testing company for some very large names in the industry over these past years. Adding this in after the fact, it occurs to me that I should probably define what outsourced QA actually is. Let's say.
So he's going to go into details here. So this gets a little potentially, kind of messy and confusing. So he's going to do due diligence. If you're not familiar with Upper Echelon's content, be sure to check him out. There's a link in the description below. I just updated the description with the link. That's why I looked a little distracted there. He is usually very, very methodical and careful in his coverage, and so he's making sure to do the due diligence right on the outset. Like, you might not be aware of this, that a lot of these companies actually outsource their quality assurance, right? Now, not only that, but there's also a lot of the times outsourced marketing. This is one of the primary reasons that we're seeing lots of leaks, because marketing companies get their hands on all the marketing assets. They know then the dates and they know all of the stuff, and that's how those leaks are happening. Those companies are a little less locked tight on those NDAs, because you could have an intern who sees the video over somebody's shoulder and then tells his buddy, such and such game's coming out, at this time. So he's going to go into detail about how quality assurance works, and it's very important for what exactly happened with Cyberpunk. So this is a good opener.
You're a publisher and you have a video game or a piece of software or anything even remotely similar. How do you go about improving it? Well, you have a variety of different options, but one of the most important things that you can do is have it tested by a team of people who are dedicated to finding when, where, and specifically how it breaks. Now, some publishers have what's called in-house QA teams, which is a separate department of testers under the same corporate banner who fulfill that role. But many publishers and software companies actually don't have in-house teams, and instead they outsource the process of testing for bugs, glitches, and other defects to a third party. That is what Quantic Lab is. It is a third party that takes on the responsibility of testing products, because theoretically they are able to then standardize and perfect that procedure for maximized results.
Now, he has a follow-up video, because I know a lot of people are going to run to the comments and be like, these guys have responded, other people have responded. This isn't really how, the QA works or whatever. He's going to primarily focus on this company called Quantic Dream, which is not the same as, wait, hang on. Let me make sure I have that name right. Hang on. Does he have it in the description? Because I might have just said it wrong. There's two different companies. There's Quantic. There's the Quantic one that like has the controversy around it, and that they're making like a Star Wars game. And then there's this Quantic Labs, I think. Anyway, it's so easy to mess that up. And so Quantic Lab, thank you. So he's primarily going to be focusing on Quantic Labs, not necessarily CD Projekt Red. Okay.
Game developers have a particular skill set, and quality assurance is actually a completely different skill set. So we don't expect, nor should we expect, that the same team who made the game itself does all of the rigorous testing required to ensure that it's ready to ship. That is what Quantic Lab does, outsourced quality assurance. According to their website, they have worked on titles like Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, Cyberpunk 2077, and a host of smaller projects as well. For today, we need to focus primarily on Cyberpunk 2077 because it is one of the most high-profile examples in all of gaming. But my source was exceptionally clear that this kind of scenario is not isolated to just one game or one project.
Yes. Quantic Dream did Detroit Become Human. They've had their own controversy with treating people poorly. Completely different company. This is Quantic Lab. Quantic Lab is who he's talking about. It's not even plural. It's just Quantic Lab. I'm like looking at the website right now. What's good, Sean? By the way, I saw what you said about me being excited about my vindication with the release date. Yeah, it was great. I mean, I'll give my own feedback right now on Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay. I don't think it's any better. I think they've polished bad parts and bugs and stuff, but I think the core game is got so much baked into it that is not very good that I just don't think it'll ever be in a state where I will want to play it for any length of time. So
Nearly everyone involved in video games has likely heard of Cyberpunk 2077. It is one of the most famous examples of launch day failure in existence, and yet the true reason for that failure is almost a total mystery. Some will tell you that it came from corporate oversight, management failure, and shareholder expectations that led to a spiral of bad decision-making, but developers themselves were largely innocent. This is likely true to a significant degree, but is it the only thing? Others will claim that they simply bit off more than they could chew. Technology wasn't ready for this level of ambition, and this was inevitably going to happen as the marketing cycle spun out of control. There are a multitude of theories, claims, and speculations, but today I want to highlight the information I was given and put forward an entirely different explanation, which will simultaneously shed light on an area of the gaming industry that needs radical improvement.
Yo, thank you, Andrew Mandrew, for doing a Tier 2 membership. That's so generous and kind. Guys, remember, we are in a new stream, so smash the like button for me. Let's get those first 100 likes. I'll offer my own theory here, because Upper's going to give his own theory. I think he overstates a little bit. I don't think he goes too far, but I think he overstates a little bit the role that Quantic Lab played here. I think that Cyberpunk 2077... If you can limit it down to the most concise explanation of what happened to the game, it is scope creep. That's what I think. I think scope creep. I think the game got out from underneath of them, and because it got out from underneath of them, it got too big and too unwieldy. And I think that's underneath what he's going to talk about. He's going to talk about this company and how they handled bugs and how they mishandled it. Asmongold has a good reaction video, and he shed some light on the gamification of quality assurance and everything else. But I think underneath that is a game that got away from them. Scope creep is... Okay. What the frick was that? Oh, that was my CPU cycling. It does that every once in a while. Sorry, that wasn't your internet. That was my gaming rig. I think underneath all of it, everything beneath it is that it had scope creep. Okay? Everything beneath it. So all the stuff he's about to talk about, I think scope creep is baked underneath of all these problems.
This is where I have to clarify a few things. This is a whistleblower, highlighting what may very well be illegal corporate practices while violating their non-disclosure agreement in order to put forward the truth. To bolster credibility and verify legitimacy, they sent a series of documents. I've been able to examine a 72-page QA testing file, Quantic Lab human resources paperwork, workflow charts, production maps, detailed spreadsheets tracking productivity, and some additional documentation from very early in the QA/development process. These are blurred in totality because I'm fairly sure that they are confidential, highly confidential, and that basis could be used to take down the video if I show them directly.
So, I have to thank a couple of people. Astro Candy, thank you so much for renewing and hitting an 11-month milestone and a 12-month milestone from Craig. Hope you had a good trip. Thank you, Craig. He is trying to say, hey, listen, they sent me tons of stuff, right? But I can't show it to you. I don't think this is him blowing smoke, because in the subsequent videos that follows this, he gets a lot of people in the industry reaching out and corroborating the problems in the quality assurance aspect of the gaming industry. Okay? I watched something about why Biomutant failed. It was scope creep, like some streamer I can't remember said. Right. Yeah. Scope creep and game buffet syndrome. Yeah. So, I again think underneath everything we're about to hear about, it is all that they wanted to do too much with this game and it got away with them. I think the next gen I think the old gen problems are linked to that. I think what he's about to go into detail is all linked to that.
My subjective opinion from examining these files is that they are legitimate. The annotations seem real when compared to actual in-game missions, employee names, and dialogue. The timeline matches perfectly when compared to development roadmaps and the alleged issues, plus a few other things that lead me to believe that this person is exactly who they say they are, and does have internal knowledge of the corporate and functional environment inside Quantic Lab. However, I do not have internal corporate memos or email chains and policy paperwork that mirrors the specific claims that they make in terms of illegal activity. That kind of information would almost certainly expose their identity right off the bat if showcased anyway, and the company allegedly has extremely tight control over what you can and cannot say, with strict and very aggressive non-disclosure agreements, as well as security measures to prevent leaked material. So the point here is, I believe the source to be real, they have provided extensive evidence to support that fact, and have made serious claims about the quality of QA activities at Quantic Lab. With all that in mind, let's dive in. Cyberpunk 2077, as we are all undoubtedly aware, would encounter a tremendous number of problems before, during, and after release, but one of the worst and most damaging issues, according to my source, was quality assurance. Fourth quarter 2019 is when it truly began. Project leads were sent to Poland, interfacing directly with CD Projekt Red, and the initial team was given their task. One small issue. That initial team was intended to be composed of industry veterans, those with extensive experience in quality assurance who understood the process and workflow. But in reality, it was almost completely composed of what the industry calls juniors, who had less than a year, or worse, less than half a year of experience. CD Projekt Red was not aware of this. In fact, according to my source, they had been operating under the impression that they would receive a dedicated team of veteran testers, and most likely thought that this would contain some of the same people who worked on Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. In reality, those veterans had almost all resigned from the company.
Okay, so this is point one that he's making. That Quantic Lab misrepresented the team that was going to be working on Cyberpunk. So he's not excusing CD Projekt Red here. He's simply saying, according to his source, they did a good job on Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, and CD Projekt Red was under the impression that they were getting a lot of those same people to work on Cyberpunk. And so this is step one of the problem of what he is claiming his source said about Quantic Lab, that they misrepresented the team who would be working on the quality assurance for Cyberpunk. So I'm just trying to track the bullet points here for you. And I think this is an easy one to believe. I don't think this is a bizarre claim, right? That, oh yeah, they misrepresented the team that was going to be working on the on the project or whatever. I don't think that's like a bizarre claim. That doesn't feel like something that's difficult for me to believe. there are obviously, when this sort of thing happens, there's stories that come out and there's things that come out, and it should be looked into and checked and investigated, especially if there's instances of misconduct and things like that. And so I'm all for that. And so in this situation, some things we just have to kind of take on faith to think that this source seems credible, and the things they are saying don't seem way out in left field. They don't feel like they're difficult to believe.
CD Projekt Red did not know this. Even the project leader had barely 1 year of experience. And when we are talking about one of the most ambitious games in all of history, that kind of inexperience is a problem. I would like to clarify, the individual testers and managers, from what I am told, did the best with what they had. They worked hard, they gave it their all, but as we will soon discuss, there is only so much you can do when the deck is stacked against you. Ironically, on theme here...
Okay, I've got a source here saying Upper Echelon's claims unravel a bit further when you do a small amount of research. For example, in his video, he states even the project leader had barely 1 year of experience. While the credits for Cyberpunk 2077 lists all the QA team from Quantic Lab that worked on the game, that makes it simple to see how much experience they currently have just by searching on LinkedIn. Senior project manager is somebody named Marius, 15 years and 8 months at Quantic. Project manager Hajnaka is 11 years and 1 month, and then the project manager is 7 years with Quantic. So 3 of the 4 credited project leads were veterans when Quantic Lab started working on Cyberpunk. The 4th didn't have a LinkedIn, but I'm sure I could send them an email. Okay. So here's the issue with how they framed this. This isn't the first time I'm going to be nitpicky with the press, because I think the gaming press is a joke. And there's going to be somebody in my target today that deserves to be in the targets for being a bad journalist. And these are not Upper Echelon's claims. These are the claims of somebody that worked at the company. So he's only as good as the intel he's given. So if this feels pedantic, so be it. The person who wrote that article should be specifying that Upper Echelon is merely relaying the claims of someone who's a verifiable person at the company, right? In his follow-up video, like this person clearly is who they say they are, and they're willing to verify that to anybody else in the press that wants to check them. And so it's not Upper's claims here. Like, I know that might feel like I'm splitting hairs, but I do feel like journalists should be a lot more careful. He has a duty to do research. How do you do research when they're claiming that? All these things, all these people listed, how does he know that's accurate and truthful? You think these companies are going to list the project lead, which the senior project manager. Okay, so they got 3 people that they did their own research and found on LinkedIn that have a range of 7 to 15 years of experience. He said project lead, which could have been somebody in a particular role. Maybe at some point they were removed. Who knows? All he knows is his source's claims are easily disproven. How is that disproven, Eugene? We don't know when those people were put on the project. We don't. At what point was the person with 15, 11, and 7 years, when were they put on? They're credited in the game, but we don't know if they were the one that was on this in the beginning, because this person's saying, look, the project lead barely had a year, and most of the people working on the project weren't the people that worked on Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. They were newer employees. So I don't think he's been disproven by the credits in the video game. We don't know if the credits in the video game are accurate or factual. This is the same company that launched this game on last gen barely playable. And we're going to trust them to be like, oh no, yeah, for sure, everybody in the credits is completely accurate to what went down and how it all happened. And again, think of it from this perspective. Let's say what Upper's saying is 100% true, okay? And Quantic Lab was misrepresenting the team that worked on it. You don't think it's beyond the scope of reason that they gave the names of people to Cyberpunk, to CD Projekt Red to put in the credits that didn't even actually work on the project to make it look like, oh yeah, we had our best people working on it. He literally just says before this that they misrepresented the team working on it to CD Projekt Red. And you think when CD Projekt Red puts a bunch of names in the credits that those are the actual people that worked on it, stands to reason that they might not even have touched the project. You know what I'm saying? Both things are not like, both things are mutually exclusive, but one doesn't disprove the other, because if this person coming from Quantic Lab is telling the truth, then Quantic Lab totally could have misled CD Projekt Red with a list of names that never touched it to make it look like they had their veterans on the project. Like, he literally said that not 2 seconds ago, that they made it seem like a bunch of veterans were going to work on it. So a handful of things could have happened. Different project leads could have been off and on the project, or they could have been literally trying to mislead CD Projekt Red.
People have accused upper management of ruining the Cyberpunk 2077 launch many times in the past at CD Projekt Red. Upper management inside Quantic Lab would prove to be an issue. Somehow, some way, a philosophy that the raw number of bugs would somehow equal good performance had taken hold within the corporate structure. And this led to a bit of a problem. A policy became enacted where bug quotas were implemented for testers, the highest of which, pertaining to free roam, I think it was set to 10 per day per worker, according to my source. The idea was that this would drive productivity and craft a clean, polished game. The decision came from the top down. And in theory, sure, that might work with a proper timeline, but for something as ambitious as Cyberpunk 2077, something else began to happen, something more sinister. In order to meet this quota, every single day, testers began to bombard the development team with thousands of small visual and performance glitches, something tasked as negligible on the priority scale.
Okay, so let me explain what's going on here. I don't know why closed captions is on. I'll turn that back off. I don't know why it was on right there. Okay, so this is something that Asmongold talked about when he reacted to this video. Like the gamification of corporate processes. The idea that you're going to earn points by doing something, and if you don't get so many points in a day, you're going to be seen as falling behind or not working hard enough or whatever the frick. And so what this does to the quality assurance team that's working on Cyberpunk, and again, this doesn't sound out of left field. This doesn't sound like some embellished lie. This sounds like something companies would do. Well, the employees start to prioritize just finding a glitch because that's going to get them points for the day, okay? And so then they get inundated. The development team then gets inundated with the most minor of things instead of foundational problems. Again, this doesn't excuse Cyberpunk launching the way that it did, because it was clearly a busted, broken game from the ground up. But it could start to show you why so many massively big things got overlooked. To say it another way, when I was in a tech support call center, they prioritized for a time. Call time was prioritized to such a degree that solutions went down and rolling trucks went up. Instead of just solving the problem with the person on the phone, they were rolling trucks like crazy. Why? Because the person didn't want to have their call time go up. So that metric negatively affected a tech support's person ability to help like an elderly person, right? It's like, well, this old woman's going to take a while to check all the things I need her to check. Instead of me going through the steps with her and possibly fixing her problem over the phone, I'm just going to roll a truck. So around the time that I started working there, they had adjusted call time as a metric. They gave it less weight, and they scored other things heavier. Did you resolve it over the phone? How often are you resolving it before rolling a truck? So what they did is they gave you the incentive to stay on the phone to try to fix it, and you felt a lot of pride if you rolled fewer trucks that day, because that was a better metric for you. And so they had to balance that, right? Because you don't want people not rolling trucks because they don't want, because you still sometimes need to send somebody out. So same exact thing in this scenario. You've got people that are motivated to find little teeny problems instead of big problems, because the big problems are going to be harder to deduce and report, which is going to eat up a lot of their time and their day, which means they're going to get less points, which means they're going to potentially get in trouble or written up or whatever.
It was not severe, it was not important, it was very small things all day, every day. A little bit of clipping on an item or a wall, a little bit of pavement that had some texture problems, an audio bug and some dialogue, etc., etc. Instead of focusing on core issues with mechanical problems, quest lines, or game-breaking exploits being the target, a massive, never-ending fire hose of random, unimportant glitches were being sent to the developers that consumed a ridiculous number of work hours to fix. The vast majority of those bugs were totally irrelevant. Now, don't get me wrong, polish is absolutely important in any game, but what's more important is core functionality. And when you are required to submit a high number of bugs per day, it gets harder and harder to uncover or replicate the important issues.
Yes, it actually was Charter Communications, Alex. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I work for Charter. They were actually a great company to work for.
The ultimate consequence of this, labor is spent on fixing surface level problems, while the underlying foundation is left to rot, because the quality assurance team isn't really able to dig into it. Eventually, after being bombarded,
I gave him more volume. I just noticed he was a little bit quieter, and I couldn't give him any more, so I did it in OBS.
By these smaller issues for a lengthy period of time, hundreds per day, thousands in total easily, CD Projekt Red just stopped focusing on them. Quantic Lab was specifically instructed to stop sending them through the low priority bug finds and to focus on bigger issues. But the damage was already done, and CD Projekt Red was already very unhappy. Short timelines, ambitious project, inexperienced and overworked quality assurance team members, plus a huge delay in fixing core systems because of an arbitrary quota. Well, that's a perfect storm. The internal pressure here, again, according to my source, was intense. Everyone was cramming to get this done, and everyone was forced to ride the person beneath them to get more done, because the lost time and lack of experience had boiled over. But perhaps there was a solution. In the summer of 2020, the testing team was expanded. 30 testers became 60 testers, and with that doubled team size came the expectation for double productivity. This turned out to be an absolute disaster. Quantic Lab was already struggling to fully staff all of their other projects, not just Cyberpunk 2077, so they were short on workers. These 30 new testers didn't come from other departments or games. They weren't industry veterans with any sort of experience. They were brand new hires, most of which had no prior knowledge of or experience with quality assurance. Some of them, the lucky ones, got 2 to 4 weeks of training, but some didn't.
So he's going to go into detail here. This is like super helpful. He's going to go into detail about why, like, hiring more people isn't a simple solution. And yeah, he responds to that guy in the second video, Eugene. And so it's not as simple as just hiring more people. And he's about to go into details as to why that is. Like, it's not as simple as, oh, just make your team bigger, right? So when we tout the Sony method, like Sony reinvests in their devs so their devs can grow, you have to understand how the fact that they're actually doing that, they're growing and they're doing it successfully. That's a challenge in and of itself. It really is. And if you're growing and getting more employees and you're successfully doing that, you're larger and you're taking on more work and you're pushing out more stuff, that's a huge achievement. So I don't think we don't want to understate that when like Insomniac or Guerrilla or any of these developers grow and continue to successfully crank out great work, they're doing two things that are challenging. They're developing a great game and they're doing it while growing. And he's going to give some insight into how significant that is.
And for all their effort, and they did try to succeed, new employees in a field like that are not immediately useful. It takes time for them to understand the field. It takes experience for them to overcome obstacles and become productive eventually. So a team size doubling actually ended up hurting the overall project. Imagine having a team of functional testers that suddenly doubles in size, but the second half of that team doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. Rather than just working on the project, veterans...
Sorry about the language warning. He swears there, and I listened to it this morning, and I was going to try and bleep it, but sorry. I think that's the only time he swears.
And senior employees are having to train multiple of their coworkers in real time as they try to complete an already nearly impossible task. And once that chain of dominoes begins to fall, well, we've all seen what happens. Looking at these issues in tandem, you have a QA team that is either failing to keep up with the intended timeline, or worse yet, hindering the development as they struggle against an arbitrary quota that only serves to overwhelm and bog down the developers with non-critical exploits or bugs. It likely wasn't the only issue that led to the launch day failures of Cyberpunk 2077, but if true, it was a large and contributing factor that put pressure on an already strained process. But there's more. It is alleged by my source that during 2019 and 2020 especially, though these practices still exist to this very day, Quantic Lab would make false claims about team size to secure or extend contracts. This is where things get a whole new level of serious, because claiming to a partner that you will have, say, arbitrary number, 20 workers testing their product, but then having just 10 or less, means that they will get a severely reduced result. The quality will take a nosedive. And this will also put an insane amount of pressure on the testers who actually are working, which puts Quantic Lab in a really awful position.
Okay, so I don't know if these claims have been specifically spoken to. He speaks to this briefly in a second video about how, if you're just tuning in, we're watching Upper Echelon's video on Cyberpunk, and he's looking at Quantic Lab, the quality assurance company that worked with CD Projekt Red, and now he's saying that his source claims they were boasting of larger teams than they had to get bigger and better contracts, and that creates a terrible environment because now the companies that enter contract with you are expecting a certain level of bandwidth, and you don't have it. So you're basically asking a team of 20 people to perform as if they were a team of 40 people or something, even though there's only 20 of them, because you basically just told this company that's how big your team was or whatever. And so this, again, these are things that are alleged, and I don't find this hard to believe. This sounds like something somebody would do. And in his other video, he goes into details about like what one of the higher up guys did, and it was just like, it just sounds like you got people in positions that thought, let's just do it, let's make the money. And the QA, as Eugene is saying, QA is an entry level job, so they likely have high turnover. They likely don't value the employees that well. QA is apparently being unearthed. It's like we're picking up a rock and there's all these nasty things underneath of it. We're finding out that QA workers in gaming are treated like garbage, and this sounds like one of the systemic reasons as to why is that the way to get these contracts and to be profitable is to boast of a larger team than you have, get a ton of money, and I think he'll even talk later about how they would puff up like a pufferfish, hire a bunch of people, and then let them all go once they got the contracts, because then they could make more money. But then the people left are basically the ones that have to do the work.
They have a multitude of partners, some public, some private, and when the quality of work is degrading as a result of lower team size than advertised, that would be an issue. It is also what can lead to a strained relationship, which is precisely what happened with CD Projekt Red, as they allegedly noticed that the quality of results they were receiving did not stand in line with expectations, owing to the fact that there was a significant lack of experience. To counter this, Quantic Lab allegedly holds a strict and very oppressive non-disclosure system, a €10,000 penalty for disclosing any confidential information whatsoever, and the definition of confidential becomes very flexible.
Now, this isn't the first time we've reported on what I would consider to be abusive use of NDA. I believe that Bungie's guilty of this. I believe other companies are probably very guilty of this. Blizzard Activision probably has a ton of people locked under, pretty abusive NDAs, non-disparaging agreements, non-disclosure agreements, ways to keep people quiet about misconduct, abuse, dysfunction in the company, dishonesty, like if they're defrauding these companies. So I think the next wave of potential legislation for gaming companies is going to come down, and I think it's going to, the next wave of legislation for business in general will potentially be surrounding unlawful NDAs or unethical NDAs, basically using them as a way to hide misconduct or hide illegal activity, or unethical or wrong activity. So 10,000 euro, I think is what he said.
Workers could not ever discuss projects that they worked on. Name in the credits does not matter. Don't talk about it. Don't use it as a portfolio example, reference material, or mention your involvement for any reason in any capacity. Management would threaten legal action, force employees to take down any mention that they had worked on specific projects, and these oppressive systems succeeded in one critical way, by suppressing information about corporate malpractice. My source also described an atmosphere where dissent is not tolerated. Disagree, you'll be ignored. Disagree too loudly, you'll be reprimanded, and continue to disagree long enough, or do even small arbitrary things that upper management disagrees with, you'll be coerced into resignation, which then stops any sort of internal change from ever happening.
Now, obviously that you want to take that serious when you hear something like that, but that's sort of corporate America 101. That's kind of, at one level it's necessary, like you need people to fall in line, you need people to take orders and carry out those orders, or the the organization can't function. And if these are entry-level positions, you don't expect a lot of pushback. You just expect people to kind of do what they're supposed to do, right? Like, imagine you're running a grocery store and you hire a bunch of people to stock shelves and run the registers. You don't expect those people to be outspoken and give you pushback on the logistics of your store and how things are run. Now, obviously, if they make great suggestions and point out things that are put together in a wrong way, like maybe the guys stocking the shelves say, hey, the way you're having us do this is completely counterproductive and it makes us waste large amounts of time, then you'd be an idiot to ignore that. But also, at the same level, you would have complete operational breakdown if people didn't just sort of fall in line. So I'm not justifying that kind of a work environment, but those kind of work environments, they are kind of part and parcel to a corporate world or to a large, company, because, like, if you don't get hired at this entry-level position and just do your job, then we didn't hire you to come in here and be, a back talker, okay? But it's very easy for it to turn into a toxic culture where no one can provide feedback and say, hey, you're having us do A, B, and C, and it's completely destructive to efficiency. And if everybody's scared to speak up, then the inefficiency continues and the company suffers accordingly. So, but I like I said, I think there's two sides to this. It's like, okay, I'll grant you that that's not helpful, but I don't necessarily think that's like automatically toxic or bad for a corporate company to be like, listen, shut up and do your work. We didn't hire you for your opinions. Like, at one level, that's needed. So the problem is too many companies use the get in line doctrine as a way to abuse employees because they are power hungry. That's right. Like, get in line should never be used to silence people from speaking out about like misconduct or fraudulent things or illegal things. But, it can get to a point where it's like, listen, this is an entry-level position. Just do the work and be quiet. Like, it's a balancing act between that being abusive and that just being like, this is how the company has to run, or we're not going to get anything accomplished. I work in a corporate environment, says Sven, in a company where I'm not encouraged to speak up and voice my concern as a company I want no part of. That's exactly right, because I think good management and good leadership is always open to input. Like, hey, listen, we're going to set up channels of feedback and input to ensure that we're not overlooking redundancies and inefficiencies, because that's the death of a project. So if they don't have those proper channels set up, then that's a self-inflicted wound on the company, keeping it from being at its best.
When it comes to blame, I don't believe it's my place to personally speculate. This person is the one responsible, that person should be fired, etc., etc. It's just not for me to say. My source has some strong opinions on that front and certainly has a set of names that they believe are fully and holistically culpable. But summarized as an issue with upper management of the company, their ultimate goal seems to be spurring some kind of action to improve the company's culture and policy. Operating under the belief that all of this is precisely accurate, Embracer Group conducting some kind of internal audit would absolutely expose these issues and could very well lead to a better functioning environment. Quantic Lab provides a valuable service, if done properly, and that service is utilized by many companies in the video game industry and beyond to test their products. Better methodology and corporate governance equals better testing. Better testing means better games, and better games quite obviously means that customers will have a better experience.
Now, what Zubair is saying I think is important. He is a lawyer. So an NDA is not enforceable just because you signed it, but people don't know that. There's laws limiting them already. You know what I think it is, Zubair? It's a combination of things. I think he'll talk about this in one of the videos or one of the sections, is that and I was actually going to interview a woman about this, and we never got to work out the dates, and then we don't do that kind of content anymore over on radio. But she was afraid to speak up on certain things because, according to her, and she's not the only person to say this, you get blacklisted, right? Like, you're not playing ball. You're a troublemaker. And so this sort of paralysis sets in where no one will say anything because of, fear of repercussions, because they would like to go work somewhere else. And so I think it's the NDAs establish, like, just look at the IGN article about Bungie, okay? I'm not axe grinding here. I pointed this out when I read that article. That article said that there were people unwilling to give details about what had happened to them for fear of retaliation. Okay? I think making people sign NDAs, I had a former Bungie employee speak to me. He said he was forced to sign a non-disparaging agreement. Okay? He was forced to. It wasn't an option. And he said many people felt forced and pressured to sign it. And it creates a toxic environment of, if I don't sign this and play ball, I'm ousted. I'm going to get blacklisted. I'll be retaliated against, right? And we saw this with Blizzard Activision. Years of misconduct being swept under the rug, people playing ball, people being like, oh, I'm not going to say anything, right? Overlooking it. And so so what you do is you create a culture of, you sign this paper and you shut the frick up, or there's going to be consequences. And that permeates into the actual gaming culture, where there's been numerous people that have spoken out and said one of the reasons nobody ever says anything is they want to be hireable. They want to be able to be hired again. So they don't think it's worth torching some company and exposing them, because it's like, man, I got my own life to live. I got to go to the next company and be able to work. So the use of the NDAs is more than just like, oh, you don't really have to abide by it if it's unethical. Like, there's laws that would allow you to break NDA, right? Like, they can't make you sign an NDA and then you go into the company and they're making toddlers fight for food. You'd be like, well, this is completely unethical and wrong. This is an illegal practice. Well, sorry, you can't say anything. You signed an NDA. Well, no, the NDA, that doesn't protect them at that point. So I actually think there's a culture of retaliation baked into that idea that, like, you're going to be mistreated or abused or you're expendable. Especially, we're finding out in the QA world. In the QA world, that's why, one of the first video game unions to form was a QA team, was because of how they felt like they were being treated. They wanted to be able to be protected, essentially, from being mistreated. And I think that's now permeated. At one level, you've got crunch, but at another level, you have this, like, be quiet or there'll be repercussions, Your Americans and your constitutional rights. This company is based in Romania. Yeah, it's a Romanian company. Yo, Atwood, thanks for jumping back in. So, when we have a company like Blizzard Activision getting exposed, when we have companies getting exposed for crunch, when you have an article about Bungie that was supposed to be like, it was basically a puff piece, and you have ex-employees saying that article was a sham, and even in the article you had people that were unwilling to give details for fear of retaliation. The retaliation culture was still well in place, and much of it was being upheld with NDAs.
It all flows down like a river, so Embracer Group becoming aware would probably be a good thing. Regardless, a well-articulated whistleblower decided to contact me. After examining everything that they gave me, I decided it was worth covering, so here we are. Cyberpunk 2077 may not have failed exclusively because of a faulty QA process, but if true, it was certainly a major contributing factor in the overall decline of that game pre-launch, culminating in what we saw during December of 2020, That is to say, one of the most controversial examples of a AAA game launching in an unfinished condition. What's to be done? I'm not sure. Perhaps Embracer Group or some higher functioning party can take a look at what's going on, but for now, this would explain a great deal of why and how Cyberpunk 2077 became infamous for failure. That's it. If you want to support the channel, there are links down below, primarily locals and Patreon to get away.
Okay, make sure and support his video because it is linked below. Now, yeah, it's Bungie Day, by the way. Sure, man. Celebrate a company that has paid victims to be quiet and forced victims to sign things, and has protected abusers. Yeah, man. Yay, Bungie Day. All right. So here's his follow-up. Okay. Now there's people in the industry that have pushed back on his claims, and he responds to some of it. There was Legacy Killa HD on Twitter that had some things to say, and much of this he is claiming is about a misunderstanding of a point that ended up in an article, okay? And it's not shocking to me at all that this happened. Now, I don't want to give any press to the guy that misquoted it, so the front half of this video I'm going to skip past. All right, because I don't care to talk about this guy. But there's a guy who writes for an organization who doesn't have journalistic integrity, and this is another example of what happens in gaming press. And what happens in gaming press is this has happened before. One person says something, and then 18 other articles will reference back to that one article. And so if that original article made a mistake, it's too late. Everybody's run with the telephone game. And so something that Upper's going to talk about is that was an element that spurred on a lot of bad press or bad headlines, basically, that wasn't representative of what he said in his video. Okay? So I'm going to pick up here where he starts talking about how it all stemmed from that and all these other articles got posted, because I don't feel like giving any space for that guy.
Kotaku Australia to Screen Rant and beyond, and watching that happen has once again underlined precisely how flawed gaming journalism has become, and requires me to issue some clarifications. I don't need to clarify because my initial coverage was wrong. I need to clarify because the media game of telephone has started to get a little bit out of control with the story. I've talked about this before, but the way gaming media and legacy media in general, it seems, has begun to operate resembles a children's game of telephone. One child says a word or a phrase, the next one repeats what they heard, around you go, time after time, and eventually the last one in the circle repeats the phrase out loud. Anyone who has played this game will probably know that you almost always end up with gibberish or a completely different phrase, and the issue is that incremental change with each repeated iteration leads to a degradation in the raw information. It's a mouthful, I know, but it's true. Basically, by the time you reach the end of the circle, no one knows what the fuck is going on, and the initial phrase is completely lost. That's a much more extreme, but in my opinion also fairly accurate example of how media has come to operate in recent years. And today I need to just jump right in as the whispers go around and clarify a few specific things. Let's begin with Forbes. Credit to Paul Tassi, he was the first.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip through this section. So basically he's gonna outline a particular line from the article that they exaggerated their size to keep working on Cyberpunk. And so a lot of people started running with the headline that Quantic Lab went to CD Projekt Red and was like, hey, this is... They basically were keeping the contract alive by lying. That's not what he said in the video. I mean, we just watched it. He talked about how they procured other contracts by misrepresenting team size, and it created a toxic environment where this company has been promised a certain size of team, and that you don't have that, right? So I didn't feel like Upper gave the impression, I didn't watch it and get the impression that they were like having to lie to keep the contract with CD Projekt Red, right? What he did say in his video was that they made it appear as though veterans at the company who had worked on The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt would be working on Cyberpunk, and that a lot of those people weren't even at the company anymore. He did say that in his video, okay? So I want to skip over that section because, yeah.
Single further publication that directly copies from Forbes, which is a large number, is going to misrepresent that information. There were quite a few articles that simply quoted the Forbes summary, thus regurgitating something that was not precisely accurate in terms of which particular teams were understaffed. And even further, there were articles that then began pulling from the summary and misrepresenting who was the original party that allegedly implemented the bug quota. To be extremely clear, according to my source, Quantic Lab implemented the quota, not CD Projekt Red. Now, these kinds of clarifications.
So, this is not a point of clarification that necessarily gets CD Projekt Red out from under any blame, but they're not the causality of getting a bunch of. If you watch the original video, right? If you watch the original video, he says, hey, they basically made this quota system. The quota system led to a bunch of just garbage issues that were menial and not that big of a deal, and they got flooded with them, and because they got flooded with them, it really broke down the entire process. And he is clarifying now that CD Projekt Red is not the company that instituted the quota system. It was actually Quantic Lab. So I think it's an important point of clarification, but again, game journalism is not equipped to handle stuff like this. They didn't handle drama and controversy a couple years ago. Recently, they've not handled things very well. I had my own experience with reaching out to a publication to correct something that was erroneous, and they edited the original article. They didn't publish an update or a retraction. They merely updated the original article, which is just absolute journalistic malpractice. To do that. So this is another example of how gaming journalism at one level is just completely and utterly broken, because they're just accustomed to regurgitation. Like, one person gets the digs on something, like, hey, there's a patch, and here's all the great info we got from our interview, and then everybody else just repurposes that interview and that content. And that's all well and good because none of that's that serious. But when something serious comes up, they don't seem equipped to handle it with care and with integrity and accuracy. So,
clarifications aren't major or story defining, but what does have a pretty major impact is perception of motive. In the aftermath of Cyberpunk 2077's disastrous launch, Marcin Iwinski, co-founder, published a sort of apology video of sorts, and in that video he said the following.
Every change and improvement needed to be tested, and as it turned out, our testing did not show a big part of the issues you experienced while playing the game.
This drew widespread criticism in the moment, and there was a mistaken sense of outrage I have seen with regards to this type of statement and my own previous coverage, where some people feel I am attempting to whitewash the culpability of CD Projekt Red. That's not actually the case. I stated firmly, in point-blank terms, that poor leadership and mismanagement largely contributed. Shareholder expectations, erroneous and damaging development timelines, developer crunch, all of this plays a part. And of course, on a basic level, the development team was aware that the product was broken. Anyone with a brain was aware that it wasn't ready for launch. But quality assurance encountering this type of issue, according to my source, played a significant role in the product ultimately being released in a condition even worse than it otherwise would have had the process been streamlined.
Okay, so I do think he's going to get on something that needs to be considered, because every time we talk about Cyberpunk, I feel like a couple of things happen. There are people who have played this game almost exclusively on a pretty good PC, pretty good rig, and they have almost no problems. And we saw this evidenced when we looked at the Steam review scores. Around the time that Cyberpunk 2077 re-entered the Sony store, okay, we went and checked the review scores and the Metacritic and all of that. And funny enough, it had like a 73 or a 76 or something on PC. And it was surprising to us, but I do think it performed significantly better, right? Performed significantly better on PCs, which might have led to why that guy said that. And because of that, I think they had internal testing that didn't necessarily show the insane levels of things that happened. Now, that's a terrible excuse. That's such a terrible excuse, because if you've got this game launching on old gen, then it should be there and tested there. Like, you shouldn't just be testing it on a PC only. Like, that's terrible testing. Like, you need to test it everywhere it can be purchased. And so this makes sense a little bit of what happened, but that level of ineptitude is just insane to me, to think that, like, oh, we didn't find this in our testing. Well, then your testing was so bad that apparently, like, what, did you never boot the game up ever on... Did you never boot the game up on an old system? You know what I mean? So I think it's good to make this point here, but he's also saying, listen, I'm not absolving CD Projekt Red at all from their blame. There's just more elements to what happened than what I think we originally thought.
Now, very recently on Twitter, Legacy Killer HD has claimed that he spoke with CD Projekt Red developers, or at least one, who claim it's laughable that they didn't know what was going on or that the game was broken, which would seem to contradict at least partially the claims made by Marcin Iwinski in his official response. But here's the thing though, it's entirely possible for all of these angles to be true at once simultaneously. Bear with me, but here's a bit of a personal theory. What if the majority of testing was done on high-end machines? I have extensive anecdotal statements of my own from viewers about the drastic difference between experience from PC to console. The PC high-end developer systems create a sort of intrinsic bias in the process, and if console testing was primarily outsourced, you can have a situation where, yes, developers know the game is broken, yes, management knows as well, but simply mandates the product be released at a specific time, for the holidays actually, but despite knowing it is broken, they don't precisely know how, to the full extent they could, or at the very least have significantly less information on the specifics of how, which is to say, less than they would with a more streamlined QA process, and a breakdown in experience as well as efficacy on the QA side may have contributed to all of this heavily. Many people seem to be viewing this as a statement of totality. If not for Quantic Lab, the game would have been great, but that's an asinine thought process, and my original video made no such indication toward that end. According to my source, a significant breakdown in quality assurance contributed to the flaws that were then even directly cited by the co-founder of the company, perhaps as a combined result of platform bias, I'm not sure. Here's the thing though, that video, even if some people seem to be negligently or perhaps intentionally misrepresenting or misinterpreting it, opened the floodgates of information. I have to play a delicate game right now because in the aftermath I've been inundated with messages and emails that contain a lot of confidential information. This is an Icarus situation, I guess. I want to put it all out there, while protecting sources of course, but I would be sued into oblivion, right? It's that type of information that goes that deep and that quantity. I don't just have sources in Quantic Lab now. I've talked with people that do QA for Electronic Arts, Bethesda, and even leakers who have extensive internal information from CD Projekt Red themselves.
Okay, so he has another video that I don't know if we'll be able to get into it, but he has a third video. We're going to have to cover the Skull and Bones gameplay tomorrow in the morning, Paw Patrols, because I have an appointment around the time that stream goes live. So he has gotten so inundated with info that he had to make a third video about quality assurance. Okay, so this is like an ongoing thing that it all took place about a week ago. Like, I think the initial video was 10 days old from today. Today's July 7th. Then the next one was like 9 days old. It was like a next day thing. And then he did a follow-up video to these two videos called Quality Assurance or something. So I don't know if we're going to get to that video, but as far as I can tell, people in the industry are reaching out to him because it's extremely analogous to when I had people reaching out to me. It's like, hey, there are folks in the industry that are trying to push back against your narrative, and it's a true narrative. It's true. There is a problem. This quality assurance thing, all the stuff that happened. There's people from Cyberpunk, from CD Projekt Red that are speaking with him as well, and it's because I think they're tired of the gaming press basically being a mouthpiece for these companies and not allowing these stories to get out or whitewashing them the way that IGN did with the Bungie situation. I think you're going to see a continuance of this. Like, there's going to be people coming to sources like this to be like, listen, the gaming press has been kid glove with this. This is a widespread problem. It's at every company, and what you covered on what happened with Cyberpunk is super, super common. And so I actually think the fact that these people are coming to him gives more credence to what his original source said to him, as well as his coverage. Just because there's maybe some finer points that could be countered or pushed back on, I don't think he would be getting all this info enough to make a third video. I don't think he'd be getting all these people in the industry reaching out to him if it wasn't at some level a verifiable trend in the industry and a problem. And so this could be this could just be sort of the beginning of this stuff kind of coming out. Like, I don't know if there'll be any legal issues going on, like with what happened with Blizzard Activision, because this could just be not like fraud or misconduct or something that you could be sued for, but it could just be extremely awful practices like crunch. Like, nobody's being sued for crunch, right? But the more we learned about it, the more sort of nasty it became. I think we're getting to the beginning of the truth about quality assurance in the gaming industry.
Not just Quantic Lab. Some of those sources describe a relatively similar situation at other companies, while some state that an army of monkeys, as they are referred to, not my term or my words, that was the nickname given at a specific studio, do low-level QA work while internally a high-level and highly skilled team tackles different problems. The variance between QA companies is quite high, it seems, and while some call it the worst experience of their entire life, others view it to be a simple stepping stone with no real controversy attached. From industry veterans to brand new hires, I have well over a dozen open email chains right now as I type this, with additional Discord messages, tons of them, and calls scheduled over the next few days to learn about the chain of events, more about QA in general, and get to the bottom of what the situation entailed. Furthermore, I was given a screenshot internally of Quantic Lab's corporate response to all this, and it seems that they are perhaps considering legal action. That is, of course, entirely expected. I went into this knowing that that was likely going to be their response, but I stand by my initial video, and I'm fully confident that further information will come out very soon. I was also contacted by...
So, yeah, there you saw the headline of that video. That email was the defamatory video or whatever. They're claiming his video was defamatory, which is, that's the press is going to do, like, if I guess the only thing they could claim is like did he reach out to them for official comment or something like that. Yeah, could we get 200 likes on the video? If you guys haven't done that yet, smash the like button. We got plenty of people here. We kind of lost steam. You guys really went off on a tangent that I didn't want to engage with because I'm focused on reacting to the video. I honestly think you can't go off on that kind of stuff. You can't start talking about what you guys were talking about. I think it drives people away. They're like, I do not want to be in a chat about this. So try to never do that ever again, please. So the fact that he had to do a third video as well, I just think there's way more to this. I don't know if they're going to sue him or not. I don't know if they're going to try and take the videos down. I would imagine that would have already happened. So the videos have not been taken down, struck, or anything like that. They may be analyzing their options, but I don't know how much they could do to him because he's not done anything wrong. Like, if somebody comes to you and gives you a bunch of stuff to go to the public with, you don't necessarily have to, like... Now, well, the press is supposed to vet claims, so I don't know if they could get him on that, but because that's been my issue with the press's coverage of a lot of different things over the years, is you should be vetting claims. Like, if someone comes to you anonymously and just says a bunch of bad stuff about a company, that needs to be something that needs to be, like, looked into and vetted. And I feel like he did vet the person and the data that he was given, like the giant document. But I don't know if he reached out to Quantic Lab to give them even an opportunity to say anything, which I feel like that would have been due diligence on Upper's part.
by a Romanian news network claiming to be the largest television network in the entire country. They wanted to interview me, and I decided to decline that, but made sure my source was aware that they are interested in the story. It's not my place to go on major network TV stations for interviews. That's not what this was all about. And if we can get past the surface level animosity and emotion that permeates the subject of Cyberpunk 2077 to this very day, there is something to dig into here. Reporting on all this is actually becoming rather tricky. Many of the people I talk to with the most access to information have the most fear of penalty, and thus they request anonymity. My answer is always yes when they say this, but that comes with its own set of issues. People who want to debate the specifics on what degree of impact this had with regards to Cyberpunk 2077 are welcome to do so. I don't care. But with Quantic Lab in mind, my gut tells me this goes a lot deeper than that. To summarize this follow-up, Cyberpunk 2077 was one of the largest projects that Quantic Lab has ever been given. Apparently, CD Projekt Red developers are telling another YouTuber that their role was minimal, which I really can't speak to at this time, but I don't care, because within that role, whatever scope it entailed, there was a breakdown in process, as well as expectation, that led to a disjointed and ultimately inferior QA result, according to my source. When reporting on this, several inaccuracies have surfaced, such as the idea that the Cyberpunk 2077 QA team size was lied about. That's not accurate. It was other projects at that time and into the future where misrepresentations were made to secure or extend contracts. Another claim I saw was that the bug quota was implemented by CD Projekt Red, which is also not true. This was a policy within Quantic Lab only, and though the majority of the information stands as is, we will undoubtedly see quite a bit more come out in the short term, which will build out the story further. In the end, yes, the buck stops with the company that literally sells the product. Obviously. Me, you, media, YouTubers, anyone, everyone is incapable of pretending that there is some kind of magical justification that unilaterally explains why and how this game launched in a terrible condition, such a terrible condition. But in a story that is rapidly becoming something much bigger, and a story that I will likely dig into far more in depth over the coming weeks, Quantic Lab has allegedly contributed to that process and also faces its own set of controversies going forward. My email is down below. It's a bit overwhelmed at the moment, and I will do my best to respond to everything in a timely fashion, but...
So this leads to his third video. So he says that at the end there. And so, you know, he's gotten so many people to reach out. He's now made a third video. And that video has over 100,000 views. So the first video got 148. His follow-up got 70. And the Exposing Quantic Lab, A Rotten Side of Gaming, his quality assurance video, has got 101,000. So his third video is 20 minutes long, and he basically goes through all of the information. Doesn't speak to the claims about leadership experience. Yeah, because again, I think the problem with that, Eugene, is he gets a source that comes to him and says they misrepresented the team that would be working on the project. And then you're showing me credits in the game that could be literally that misrepresentation. So, I don't expect him to literally respond to everything that's out there. Did he see that article? Did he even have time to respond to it? Because he did these videos 2 days apart. So the Cyberpunk one hits, kind of goes viral, ends up in all these articles, and then he follows up 2 days later basically saying, listen, the press said some things from my video that weren't true. He was correcting bad reporting on his claims. He wasn't necessarily responding to every piece of pushback and feedback that was out there, right? I would assume his source names managers, and I would assume that would be easy to verify. The leadership stuff is him repeating what an employee told him about the management experience, so he doesn't have to address it. Right, and again, if that guy comes to him and says they misrepresented the people that worked or were going to work on the project, Cyberpunk crediting those people with being the project leads of quality assurance, it doesn't mean that that's accurate and honest. That could be bad intel. We don't know. So him responding to that, I guess, would have been fine, but there's no way to prove or falsify it. Unless those people specifically speak out and say, yes, we were the leads, we worked on it. I don't know where this internal source guy is coming from, but we actively were working on the game. And they can't, because he said in his first video that their NDAs are so stringent that you can't, even if you're listed in the credits, you can't even talk about what you worked on or what projects you were a part of. You can't put it on a resume or whatever. Like, so again, if this person coming to him is true, there's no way for anybody to prove or falsify whether or not those people worked on the project. There's no way, because according to his source, the NDAs are so stringent, they can't even, those people, that guy that did the research and went to LinkedIn, those people cannot even answer questions about it. They're not allowed to, according to the NDAs. So, like, do you see? It's such an insulated, perfect system. It's like, you could tell CD Projekt Red, oh yeah, these guys worked on the project. Yeah, man, they're veterans or whatever. They never touched the dadgum thing. And they're sitting there thinking, well, we can't say anything. It speaks to the quality of a source? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It has no bearing on the quality of his source. Because if we take the claim that Quantic Lab was being misrepresentative to CD Projekt Red with who was working on the project, you can't run to credits in the game to be like, no, the quality of the source is bogus. Because if the source is telling the truth, then your intel's bad. Don't you see? If this source is telling the truth, then those credits aren't trustworthy, and therefore don't harm the quality of the source or the trustworthiness of the source. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying if it is true, then what you're proposing, like, oh well, these people worked on it. This falsifies the person's claims. But how? What if those are people that didn't work on the project? The source claims managers were inexperienced, easily verified, name them, compare the credits. With respect, Eugene, you're being pedantic because there was 18 other things listed and you're going to one piece of it and claiming credits in the game discredit the claim, so he should go back and ask the source for the names of the project managers so that then that could be verified as like, oh yeah, those people have less experience. All the other claims don't matter. The quota rule that Quantic Lab put into place, that claims that Quantic Lab was misrepresenting team sizes to other companies to get big contracts, which led to toxic overwork. The fact that Quantic Lab made it seem as though the team that worked on The Witcher 4 was going to be working on CD Projekt Red's new project, Cyberpunk, and that a lot of those people weren't at the company anymore. All those other claims are what, thrown out the window because credits in the game, you can look up the people on LinkedIn. Like, I don't find that to be a big enough death knell to the person's claims. Not to mention, we haven't even watched the third video. There's all these people coming out. People from CD Projekt Red are speaking with him, and people from other companies are speaking with him, being like, bro, this is so common. This is basically not at all surprising. Like, he's getting industry corroboration. Like, you got one claim that we don't even know if it's false or not. One of the biggest claims were the teams were completely inexperienced, and lack of credibility in one area throws out credibility in general. That's how credibility works. But we have not proven lack of credibility. We've not. Because before he even got to that point, he said they were given the impression the team that worked on Witcher 3, what's it called? Wine and whatever. They were given the impression those people would be working on Cyberpunk, and they weren't even at the company anymore, a lot of them. So again, this person says on the outset they were misrepresenting the people that were even working on the dadgum project. So you can't go run to the credits in the game and be like, oh, but this falsifies their claim. Because he literally says in the same video, they're not even allowed to talk about what they've worked on. So you could reach out. Did the person that wrote that article, did he reach out to those people and say, hey, did you actually work on this? They won't be able to answer him according to the NDAs they signed. Like, I don't have to prove him wrong. He's making the assertions. I don't think the credits and those people's LinkedIns that are listed there, I don't think that's strong enough to say the guy lacks credibility. Axe is assuming lack of credibility based on facts, not in evidence. You're arguing based on information that could very well be inaccurate. That's my entire point. If we presume that those people listed in the credits actually did in fact work on the project, there is still potential credibility to the source. Because the source could have been saying right at the beginning, they had all these people working on it that had no idea what they were doing. They were inexperienced. And then later on, they could have brought those heavy hitters in to try to help fix things. So they're all given credit. That the source would still be accurate in what they're saying. It's strong enough to call it into question. The fact that he's getting industry corroboration and people at CD Projekt Red reaching out to him to basically say, this is the kind of stuff that went down, this is the kind of stuff that happened, then I don't know. I think that gives more credence to the source. I don't know. Maybe we should just watch the third video, because he's literally getting people in the industry to reach out to be like, this is exactly what the frick's been going on at all these companies. This is not abnormal. This is common practice now. So that adds credibility to the source. You're getting industry corroboration. Like, this isn't the first time that QA departments have been in the headlines recently. This doesn't seem like a crazy story that Quantic Lab mishandled quality assurance of Cyberpunk, which is one of, not the reason, it's one of the reasons the game had so many problems. Like, there's nothing about this that makes me go, whoa, bro, slow down. These claims seem outlandish. This seems insane to me. It seems right in line with everything we've been hearing for the past, I don't know, when was that when we started talking about QA? Maybe 6 months ago? And then recently, Raven QA team unionized. It all just kind of makes sense. I don't know why you'd second guess this. Quantic Lab has a bad record. Well, I think it's totally fine for somebody to fact check the claims. I think that's totally fine to fact check the claims. But that's the problem, is the source comes in and says they were not even honest with who was going to be working on the project. They misrepresented the team to CD Projekt Red. So CD Projekt Red goes in and types up the credits and says, here's the project leads and all the people that worked on the these are all the people that worked on Cyberpunk. Well, that quite literally could be bad intel according to the source. So you can't come back around with that and be like, this disproves it, because they're literally telling you, no. They quite literally were dishonest about the people that were going to be working on the project. So those people, they can list those people, but they didn't have direct contact with the project almost at all. Like, we don't know. So the source, I don't know if he addresses that in the third video or not. That article that you found where, you know, a simple LinkedIn search on these 3 people credited with being project leads on quality assurance of Cyberpunk all have between 15 and 7 years experience. Like, think about how random that claim is. That's so random to be like, as an example, the project lead had less than a year of experience. That's just so random, and that doesn't even bolster the claims. Think about all the other claims in the video. That claim is like super offshoot, non-foundational, and it's such a random number to be like, oh yeah, the project lead didn't even have a year's worth of experience. There were plenty of other claims in the video that, in my opinion, were way more damning than, oh, they put somebody in charge that was inexperienced. Like that, that didn't seem like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what a smoking gun. It seemed far more, condemning of the company, that they were getting contracts by misrepresenting team size. It seemed more damning that they misrepresented who would be working on Cyberpunk by making CD Projekt Red think, oh, you guys did great work with Blood and Wine for Witcher 3. We're getting those guys again. Great, great, great. I think that's more damning than like, oh, the project lead had less than a year of experience. So, I don't know if I want to watch the third one though, because I don't know how I feel about doing 3 of his videos in one. It makes sense to do the first video and the follow-up, but to do the third, that doesn't feel like the right way to handle a reaction video. I like Upper Echelon. I don't want to literally bake 3 of his videos into one. So I'm going to strongly encourage people to go to his channel and watch the 20-minute exposing Quantic Lab of Rotten Side of Gaming. It is basically the third and final part, to the series. Not to mention, it's fairly common for someone with years of experience to get credit for a job that someone else has done. Right, like, who's to say that Quantic Lab doesn't just do that? They just take all their big dogs and throw their names on every project. Like, I'll tell you one thing from the third video that came out. There are websites where you can get paid to bug test, like, mobile games. And one of the higher-ups at the company went and made a login on one of those websites and had everybody using his login credentials to do debugging and all this stuff on this website. And then he, like, bought a car with the money, right? Like, that's, like, fresh out of a movie. That's so crazy. It seems like, oh, my gosh. But it's like, if that's the kind of people you have working at these companies, then those are the kind of people that would slap their name on a project because, hey, man, we're all the way up here. We checked in every once in a while. We're putting our name on that. Their big dogs probably just manage the people who actually manage the project. Right. So, yeah, the way I look at it, it's Cyberpunk, as I said at the beginning of this reaction video, I think underneath all of this is scope creep. I think it's scope creep. I think the project got bigger and bigger and bigger. I think there were all these things they wanted to do. They wanted all these systems in the city. They wanted all these graphical things going on, all these NPCs, all this dialogue, and I think it just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And when a company comes along to do quality assurance on it, I think they're interacting with an absolutely bloated project. And I think because of that, I think what Quantum Lab did was, it was gas on an already burning fire. I think the house was already on fire at that point. And I think what they did with everything that he outlines in his video, it's like, look, man, this game was in such disrepair. It's at one level, you gotta wonder if Quantic Lab got inside this game and was like, listen, we want to have a clear track record of just finding and squashing bugs, and that's why they came up with the quota system. Because the game, they could just tell, this game is a disaster. It's not beyond reasonable to question whether a company that has such predatory NDAs in place might list people in the credits that weren't integral to the work. 30 and So Gaming has 20 years in the film industry and has said that people get added and taken off credits all the time. I believe the same in the gaming thing can be said for this. Yeah, Bungie did it to Mylan Games, remember? He had his whole video about that. They basically didn't give him credit. They changed what his title was going to be. It's like, well, who's to say that Quantic Lab's not doing the same dadgum thing because they want to look impressive, or the people at the top want to look impressive, like, oh yeah, we worked on that title. And the funny thing is, do you think the people listed in the credits? Do you think the people listed in the credits are glad that they're listed in the credits for the quality assurance? Do you think that's been good for their career? Like, that's the grand irony, is those higher-ups potentially slap their name on this so that they could claim that, yeah, we worked on that. And then the game launches, and they're like, what the frick is wrong with that game? It's like, well, if you would have actually been working on it, you'd have known you wouldn't want your name on it. There are so many things that decided you're taking off the credits for a piece of work, so I still stand by the view that Upper doesn't need to address that the experience because he's not been proven wrong. The idea that CD Projekt Red was buried in irrelevant bugs from Quantic is... Well, I don't think when he pointed that out, Eugene, he was trying to act like, oh, Quantic did this. They buried CD Projekt Red in irrelevant bugs. I think maybe the point is there were significant things that just sort of went unchecked for... Because, like, think about it. He says at one point, CD Projekt Red was like, stop sending us these. So you've got how long did it take to get to that point? And when they got to that point, how many things basically went under the radar? Or now it's too long, right? The CD Projekt Red bug fixers would have prioritized. prioritized. Well, if they were never getting the big bugs, I think he talked about that in the third video, Eugene, that... Or maybe Asmongold talked about that, where I think he talked about... Yes, it was Asmongold. So Asmongold talked about how the gamification of, like, hitting those little quota numbers, he said that it was something with the IRS where what they would do is they would basically not want to find actual problems because it would take up significant amount of time, and then they wouldn't be able to hit their quotas. So the same could be true of the bugs, where Quantic Lab is busy finding super small, silly problems, and then never actually wanting to find or expose the big, significant problems because it's going to eat up too much of their time. Because they don't have to just find the bug, they have to be able to replicate it, and the more significant foundational problems with the game may have been more time-consuming. That's where the other reports come in. Quantic wasn't responsible for big stuff, and the internal teams were. Right, and maybe then that's where the breakdown happened. Is like, well, then what are they supposed to be sending? If they're not in charge of the big stuff, then why would these small, insignificant things be a problem? Yui mentioned in one of the vids earlier, they're finding small glitches like graphical errors and reporting those to hit quotas. Right. It said they started reporting clipping. Right. Yeah. We all know how bad clipping is. Clipping is the real crime. Was this not too long? Didn't read. Find as many issues as you can that won't take time to finish work on. Yeah, I mean, there's layers to it because... So what Eugene is saying is like, well, they gave, in some of the reports and some of the pushback, it was CD Projekt Red's internal testers were in charge of the bigger, more foundational problems, and these guys were not. Okay. Well, then what exactly were they in charge of? And if this is what they were in charge of, then why were they told to stop sending such small problems? Do you see what I'm saying? And if anything, that makes CD Projekt Red look worse. Like, I don't think this video, and see, this is what I think is happening. I think a lot of people from 30,000 feet were like, oh my gosh, CD Projekt Red outsourced their quality assurance. And the company did a terrible job. That's why Cyberpunk was so bad. And I think that's an extremely simplistic conclusion to come to after watching his video. Because I didn't watch his video this morning and feel like, oh man, poor CD Projekt Red. I thought, oh my gosh, two bad dancers stepped on each other's toes on the dance floor. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't watch Upper's video and get in any sense walk away from it and think, oh yeah, man, CD Projekt Red got a raw deal. It's not their fault. I walked away thinking, you both screwed up, man. Golly frick, your game was so bad, and then these guys come in and make things essentially worse for your efficiency of even finding and getting rid of problems. What a match made in hell, you know? you had a busted, broken game, and you have an allegedly dishonest, not very well-run quality assurance company trying to help you. It's like I said, it's like a match made in hell. It's like you're perfect for each other. I walked away thinking Quantic had nothing to do with it. Like I said, my take from the video, I said this moments ago, the metaphor is they were gas on an already burning fire. The building was already on fire, the foundation's already cracked and smoldering, and Quantic comes in and just kind of pours a little bit of gas on it and just and made elements of polish worse. You know. That's my take. And I think Upper running the story has unearthed a industry-wide issue. This is industry-wide. This is not isolated to this particular company in this particular situation. It feels more significantly widespread than just Cyberpunk. And it would make a lot of sense as to like when we play games sometimes and we're like, yo, how did this get through frickin' testing? What on earth is going on? Like, how did this get through testing? Well, I think we're starting to get a look into how something like that gets through testing. You have your quality assurance outsourced, and you have quality assurance employees treated like garbage, and you have companies that are potentially setting things up in such a way that you're bound to get bad work. You're bound to get bad results from it. It seems systemically flawed. Yo, what's good, Melrose Mike? Didn't CD Projekt Red apologize? So they apologized for outsourcing the QA? Well, the video he showed, CD Projekt Red essentially said, hey, and this video got a lot of criticism, you know, our internal testing didn't show a lot of these problems. And it's like, wait, what? How? The problems are so rampant. Lily Pichu's coming to YouTube. They're getting the big dogs now, dude. Ooh. Man, they're getting some big fries, dude. They got Sakuno, didn't they? Or however you say his name. He's big. And now they got Lily Pichu. She was the one that Toast claimed he had her hit him. He played one of her songs and he had her hit him and knock him off or whatever. So he could get banned. The problem with testing, you have 50-something people testing. When the game goes live, you have 1 million playing and just hit all the bugs within hours. It's why you should beta test with the public. Pulling offline TV names. What? Players can do months of testing within days. Right, I'm not going to sit here and act like outsourcing quality assurance and these smaller quality assurance teams, they're not the problem. I think the problem is they're treated in such a way and it's set up in such a way you're not even getting good work from them. Does that make sense, Eugene? You're definitely right. We're always going to find more in the first 24 hours than they're going to find in an entire year's worth of testing. It's just all those permutations and all those people in an instant booting up the game. Offline TV is the org that has Pokey and other big names. Oh yeah. I think they're going. YouTube's not messing around. We just need to get we just need to get quite a bit more with the infrastructure over here. The UI, the chat, and the subs and stuff, all of that needs to be significantly more polished. Because these big guys can come over here and just chunk numbers, but we need some tender love and care as live streamers over here. Yo, my man Ginger says, boom. Thank you for 11 months, my man. Um, 100% that's an issue with outsourcing. I feel like we've known that. Need so much better YouTube chat? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yo, 12-month milestone from Jake. Welcome back in. It was a single-player game, not online only, where bugs would happen only with the large audience. They intentionally did not show old-gen versions, and it was literally unplayable. YouTube doesn't feel like a community at all. I actually disagree to a certain point, Eugene. I felt like last month with gifted memberships, we had a significant uptick in that communal feel. I feel like they've already nudged the needle in the right direction. YouTube already had a system set up for account linking like Activision Blizzard and whatnot. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw it drop sometime. Yeah, we need something like that. Big time. You need outsourcing with Q&A a lot of the time, or you'd be letting teams go all the time. Yeah. 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 I would love chat history, Twitch, Reddit, and Facebook, etc. I can see a history. On YouTube, it requires me to remember all of our interactions. Yeah. I disagree. There's lots of people I meet in chats I see all over YouTube, and people will start becoming friends. Yeah, I think the perception of community on YouTube live streams is already going up with the gifted members. I think when you can gift specific people, it'll go up even more. So, yeah, I think they're moving the needle in the right direction. It's just, it's a very, very slow move. And I'll be honest. There's two ways to do that sort of thing, and I actually like the way YouTube does it. Because Purple would push out features and break the dadgum website, and for like a week, streaming was a stress-induced nightmare. And I don't feel that way on this platform. We've had our issues with blips and issues, right? We've had our issues, but I don't feel like I did over there, where every new feature is an anxiety attack of, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to even stream or stay live, you know? Drops are coming to YouTube. It's just a matter of time. The only way it stays as Purple drops only is if Purple keeps throwing money at the devs. I don't think they can throw lots of money at people. They're not locking people up in contracts right now. You know what I mean? Seems like Lono has one of the strongest YouTube chat communities, speaking from being a part of it for years. Asmongold Gold showed how valuable it can be, where someone was talking trash, he was able to pull up their chat history and figure out that they were a bad actor. Yeah, yep. Yeah, I loved that feature over there, because somebody would sit there and be like, I didn't say that, or this is da-da-da-da-da, and I'd be like, nope, here's your chat history, bud. I remember putting people on blast for that all the time. I thought it was an amazing feature to be able to constantly say, oh, you said XYZ. Oh, you said whatever. Like, I thought it was a great feature, because you always had people doing that. Hard to develop a sense of community with glorified hall monitors dictating friendly discussions regarding gaming from the chat. Well, with respect, Seattle Chef, I don't appreciate your tone at all, because you guys started talking about rights and the government, and I don't want that in my chat. My mods are an extension of me. So if you want to refer to my mods as glorified hall monitors, they're doing what I want them to, and it allowed me to not disrupt the show. So if you don't like that, it's real easy to leave and never come back. It's extremely easy for you to do that. It's easier than staying. So I literally refused to disrupt the show because you guys decided to go off on a non-gaming related subject. We're talking about indie games. Again, I don't know if you're going way off subject and derailing. You wasn't involved in that discussion. Oh, I know what you're referring to. I know what you're referring to. My chat has to stay on subject, and my mod said, "Hey, could you guys take it to DMs because it was derailing the public chat." Right? It was derailing public chat. So, turn loose with the understanding that I'm still tinkering. Any questions or comments or feedback, DM me. Okay. Yeah, I asked nicely to take an off-topic discussion to a different forum. Yeah. Like, if we're all going off subject, that's fine, right? But when I'm actively reacting to a video and you guys are dominating my chat with something off topic, like, he just got timed out. He just got timed out. I digress out of respect for Lono. Yeah. Valiant did not do anything that required you to act like you can't have a sense of community here because you were politely asked not to derail chat about something completely off subject. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to understand something. A public environment like this and discussion, it's a bit of a social experiment, okay? And Valiant, the one that asked you to stop, is one of my longest standing mods. And he has a very good grasp on what will derail good, like, just good public, organic flow, okay? So, to suddenly have that happening, it's disorienting for people when they come in. They're like, this guy's reacting to Upper and talking about Cyberpunk, and these guys are going back and forth for 10 minutes about indie. He wasn't rude to you. It was a very, very polite request, right? So, just to be quite honest with you, go hang out somewhere else and see how kind and charitable those mods are, okay? Like, how we're derailed by derailing? I don't know. I'll be honest. I'm always suspicious of people that come in and have nothing to say to me or nothing to say about the subject, and they just mysteriously appear out of thin air, and they're like going back and forth about offshoot things. I'm always a little suspicious. I had my spidey sense going about a couple of you. I thought, this seems a little odd. Right? Seems a little odd. So, like, try and hang out somewhere else and be disruptive and see how long you last. Your chat needs mods more than anyone. Your chats are always off the rails. No, I don't agree with that. At least they said something to you, ought to toss you and not said a single word. Yeah, plenty of people wouldn't even have given you like a polite nudge. So, yeah. It was the listen. You're in the wrong place if that's upsetting for you, because that's about the most polite encounter you're ever going to have on the internet. So, like, they have a brain big enough for multiple interests? No. Even Lono himself is super chill about what he lets go on in chat compared to other streamers, even his old self. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. We're pretty laid back here. And if what Valiant said was a cause of you getting upset or feeling unwelcome, you're not going to make it very far on the internet, because, again, I think that the way it was handled was very polite and very kind, and there was no reason to be disrespectful to the mods. Yo, Wolvie coming in, hitting a 7-month milestone. Here to derail Creature. That's my man. I'm always off on the trails, but I'm allowed to. Yeah, right, but some of you guys understand we have a rapport. You'll bait me. Sometimes I take the bait, and we go off tangent, and sometimes I don't. And it was pretty clear I was not engaging in the offshoot subjects. There was 2 offshoot subjects, and it was like the same people. Like I said, I always get a little suspicious, right? Like, I always get a little suspicious when the same people are doing it. It's like, we started the stream out with y'all going off on something that I had to type in chat to be like, hey, can y'all stop? And then all of a sudden you got off on something else completely different. And it was like, you're not even talking about what we're covering. So, yeah, I'm going to give my final thoughts on the state of Cyberpunk, and then I got a really fun announcement for you guys. So, my final thoughts are, yo, what's good, feed? Good to see you in the chat. I don't think they can actually fix what's baked into the crust. Okay? So, this is what I feel like what they've done. Imagine you're making a pie and you bake into the crust of the pie a bunch of sriracha. So it's really spicy and it's there enough to ruin any bite you take. They can take the toppings out and relay them, take the topping out, relay them, make things more laser-lined and straight, and it can look like an award-winning pie. They can make all these surface-level fixes, but any bite of that pie isn't going to taste right. And that's what Cyberpunk feels like to me. There's too much mediocrity baked into the crust of that game. They've done tons of updates, and they've done good work, but I do not think that needle will ever move far enough for me to say, hey man, this actually tastes like a completely different pie now. The most recent update that I checked out where they gave it like the next gen treatment, I was like, no thanks. This is still a bad game. So, I respected his request and ended the discussion without any talk back. You can double check to verify. I was unaware of the rules. I felt disrespected and expressed my feelings. I apologize. There's no need to apologize, Seattle. Let me explain something. My mods understand that if I'm in here talking about Upper Echelon and Cyberpunk, and 2 or 3 people start going hammer and tongs about indie games or something completely unrelated, we let that go for a little bit. But if it becomes like, what happens is I look at chat and can't engage because you guys are sidebarring and I'm trying to stay on subject. So there's this weird dissonance that can develop, and then people will come in and be like, is this live? Is this live? Why? Because chat and the stream feel disconnected. Does that make sense? It's a dance, okay? It's a dance. And so every once in a while, it's very rare the mods might be like, hey, can you guys take that to DMs or something? We have this problem in our Discord pretty consistently. So it's not a hard and fast rule. You didn't like break a rule. You didn't do anything ban-worthy. It was just the chat was those like 2 people having the back and forth. And so it was like, hey, can you guys, move on, drop it, or move it to DMs? So it wasn't disrespectful. It's a common thing with live streams. What Boomer asks if this is live? No. They'll ask if it's live if they feel like I'm not engaging with chat. So this is why I ping you earlier in the Discord or here. That way you see it light up and when I'm talking directly to you. For sure. Simply to know the rules, however, I wasn't involved with any discussion outside of gaming. Chef, that's my bad, because I saw you interacting with one of the guys that was involved in that, and I thought you were involved in that too. I literally wasn't reading what people were saying because I didn't want to. So as a highly interactive streamer, it's really easy for me to just start reading something and react to it, and then all of a sudden, I'm not talking about the right thing. So, like, I wasn't even reading what people were saying. I saw the words, I saw the subject matter, and I'm like, I'm not engaging in that. So yeah, when the streamer and the chat are completely different topics, the is this live is a valid question. Yeah. You're good, Seattle. You're still here. And that's more admirable than somebody that would have left in a huff and got all angry. So, all right, see you, Ginger. All right, let's move on to a fun announcement. You guys want to see something fun? Give me 1 second. I have to, I gotta update something. Because you guys are gonna start hitting the, oops, hang on. The Nightbot dashboard is funky. There we go. All right. We now have a brand new web presence for Reforge Roast, reforgeroast.com. If you guys remembered, we started relabeling the bags. We started relabeling the bags to make them, well, I don't need to hold it up anymore. It's on the dadgum screen. So you can use the coffee command or go to reforgeroast.com. We have 2 flavors. Creature has absolutely nailed the web presence. I think it looks so slick and so clean. And I got nice pictures taken of the bags. Well, I mean, I did it, but we got some nice pictures of the bags. It looks really, really professional and legitimate. You go to shop, you go to coffee, right? You got them right here, looking nice, looking real clean. If you go just to the shop before you go into coffee, we actually have bundles now. We have bundles. At least, well, we have one bundle for now. Once the holiday roast is back, end of this year, we'll have the ability to have more. But right now we have a best of both worlds bundle. If you want to try both roasts, do best of both. It gives you one of each, and then you can simply add it to your cart, making it extremely easy for you to do that. We also, you'll notice, have subscriptions now. You can do a subscription. So, I don't know why it says 100 in stock. Is that because it's a subscription? Are we only going to allow so many subscriptions? Maybe he might have a cap on that. We're probably not going to get 100 people to subscribe to Dark Roast. But if you did Dark Roast, you can change the quantity right here, and you can up it to however many you want to get every month, getting automatically billed. These are standard 12-ounce bags of coffee, right? Standard 12-ounce bags of coffee. There you go. See? There you go. And so we do have subscriptions now. And so whatever is your preference. If you want to buy a bag, you want to buy a handful of bags, right? If you're outside the country of the United States, we're not going to let you order more than I think 3 because the shipping gets bonkers. So if you're ever running into a weird quantity limitation, if you're outside of America, it's because we're protecting you from terrible shipping. I could let you do it, and it would be a joke, but I don't want to let you accidentally do that. Like, if you just weren't paying attention, you'd pay ridiculous amounts for it. A real product and not an NFT? That's right. What are you paying the suppliers? I mean, I'm not going to get into that with you, but we have an About Us if you want to know. If you want to know all about the coffee, check this action out. You want to know about the coffee? You can go to the About section, and it will literally put in here in front of you the descriptions of the flavor right here. So our light roast is a blend that is a low acidic custom blend of citrus, milk, chocolate, and cream with honey undertones and a smooth finish. These coffees were first planted in the 18th century in the fertile highlands of South America. Now, it's a CD Plus profile, right? Yeah, we'll have to update all of that in the... Creature will fix that. RagelessRoast.com, because we'll have to go through and update all those descriptions. Rageless Roast will eventually go to the right place. I don't know what Rageless Roast is. Yeah, but that's in the description of all of our videos, Creature, so we need that old domain to probably come here. Anyway, CD Plus profile refers to the how it's roasted. We did a little. I wasn't aware of this until yesterday. So CD Plus profile burns at a certain temperature, so that way you don't taste the roast, and it keeps acidity low, and you taste the flavor palette of the coffee more. It is also 100% Arabica as opposed to being, what was the other one? Robusta. And Arabica is a preference that coffee snobs really like, I guess. I'm not a coffee snob, but these two things are pretty important for the light roast, CD Plus profile and 100% Arabica. And then our dark roast is a French roast profile. So it is roasted at a higher temperature, and so you will taste the roast a little bit more. However, they come behind and they add a blend of raspberry dark chocolate and anise with honey undertones and a bold finish. So the Reforge dark roast, many people prefer that, and the French roast profile does mean it's roasted at a higher temperature, and you will taste that roast a little bit more, but it is also done with that the acidity low. Arabica. I looked it up yesterday, and it was Arabica. I looked up multiple pronunciations, Suede, and everybody was saying Arabica. Like, I thought it was going to be like Arabica or something, but like every site I found said Arabica. Did he just say Arabica? Yeah, how did Coffee Snob say it? I looked up multiple pronunciations, and everybody was saying Arabica. That's what everybody was saying. Yeah, BM's typing it the way that I heard it. Arabica. I don't know. I'm not a coffee guy. I mean, I like coffee, but I didn't know what any of these terms were. I had to look them all up yesterday. Check out this. When the Frickmas blend comes back, okay, it's our seasonal blend. It's a low acidic custom blend of citrus, chocolate, and green grape, which is insane to me, but that's why it has that bright seasonal finish, and it tastes like a Christmas blend because of the green grape. That's a full city profile, so again, that's going to be that lower temperature roast to give you that low acidity, and you will not taste the roast flavor, so these flavors come in really bright and really crisp. So, and then Reforge Select, we don't have yet. We're looking into offering a select blend that would be like a higher quality blend. That's not something we are in a position to do right now. But the more you guys support the coffee with orders and with orders and subscriptions and all of that, the better we're going to be able to ease into larger quantities and all kinds of different things. So. Trying to say Arabian? No, it's not Arabian. It's Arabica. It's spelled like Arabica, like an Arab person, or like Arab food or something. It's spelled like Arabica, like Arab. Yeah, we'll be covering that in the morning, Wheeze, because they're going to do their reveal or whatever. So you want to know about our coffee, you can do that. If you want to know about us, you can know about us as well, who we are. It'll talk about me. It'll talk about why we got into the coffee and why we're excited to do it. We've got frequently asked questions as well. Do you offer whole bean coffee, K-Cups? Do you ship outside the U.S.? Do you offer tea? Do you offer wholesale or bulk? These are all things that are handled right here. If you want to contact us, you can. You can give us use our contact form there. And then testimonials, we will start publishing people's testimonials once we have them. So once you guys start ordering and using this website once you start using that, you will be able to. Christina, thank you so much. An entire year of membership in a tier 2. Thank you, Christina. It took me a while to call that one out. Sorry. Google Arabica pronunciation. You're saying it wrong. I literally did this yesterday, homie. Arabica pronunciation. It's already in Arabica. Maybe I'm saying Arabica. It's Arabica. That's how I said it initially.
Arabica.
Oh, Arabica. Arabica? What's the YouTube video say?
Arabica.
Arabica. Yeah, it's not Arabica, it's Arabica. Golly, what a weird word. Arabica. It sounds like you can say either Arabica or Arabica. You can either go Abaca or Abaca, but Arabica or Arabica. There you go. Arabica. All right, I'll try and remember that. It sounds more like rabbit. Arabica. Anyway. There are two variants of coffee, Arabica and Robusto. We typically drink the former type. Robusto is considered not quality. That's right. That's what I'd never heard of that before. What's new? Nothing there. That makes sense. And then our contact form. And then eventually we will have accessories for sale. We're working on merch right now, and some of the merch will be mugs. Arabica. Sorry. I literally I literally researched it last night and forgot how to say it. I should have pulled it up and played it on stream so I was saying it right, but there you go. Yeah, we can't do whole beans, Preacher, because they send it to me in bulk. Like, literally, like, a skid of coffee shows up to my house, and I get 550 some odd bags of this. And they do all of it whole bean or all of it ground. So, it's one of those things where we just are not in the position. We would have to basically do 2 separate orders, and it's like we're not moving enough coffee to do that. Thank Chris for subscribing to Dark Roast. I don't think I have your noties set up yet. Yeah, I didn't get an email about that. So Chris did a subscription to Dark Roast. Thank you for that, Chris. We're going to have noties so that I'll get notified when you guys order them. Need pods? No, we don't need pods or K-Cups. You can buy reusable K-Cups from Amazon and then buy my coffee. You're going to save a ton of money, and it's better for the environment anyway. Arabica. Yeah. I'm going to keep saying it so I don't forget. You only do French press? Yeah, sorry. Sorry, homie. It's one of those things where show them the facts. I did. Where is that? Yeah, frequently asked questions. So we have, do you offer whole bean coffee? No. Now, and for the foreseeable future, we only offer ground. Do you offer K-Cups? We do not. However, we have heard from many customers that reusable K-Cups and our coffee play very well together, and we highly recommend that practice over standard K-Cups. Used reusable K-Cups on vacation last week with the Frickmas blend I had. Still very good. Thank you, Neons, for saying that. There you go. Somebody in chat telling you that the reusable K-Cups work just fine with our coffee. So there you go. Okay, so now would be a good time to insert ads. Yeah, now would be a good time to gift members. That's what we should do. We need committed people every stream to when that little pop-up happens and I say that, we get gifted members. So we can tell YouTube that that's more important than the live environment. Shoot, we went way longer than I probably should have doing this. I'll give members. Yeah, let's make an ad about gifted members to run. That's right. I'm gonna give members a 30-minute show just because we're really pushing members only content. We want to be doing it more often, and and so let me get it scheduled, and then I'll redirect you guys over to it, and I'll give you guys like 30 minutes just to kind of catch you up on everything that we're going to be doing in the coming weeks. We made a couple of updates to the Discord. It'll also be a great way to My sister says pre-owned versus refurbished. Which one is better at GameStop? I think refurb. Because it goes through testing and has new parts sometimes. I actually don't know. I think refurb's better than previously owned. Thanks for the stream. Yeah, no problem. Here, I'm going to post to the members. I'll post that. All right, if you guys watch the stream today and enjoy it, consider becoming a member. Every day we're going to end with a segment for members. Sometimes it'll be short, sometimes it'll be long, sometimes it'll be gameplay, right? And I'm going to go live on that members only stream very quick. Right now I'm going to redirect you guys. I'm also going to give you guys a link just in case redirect doesn't work. Hey, if you clicked on this, you're a member and you weren't here live, which is okay. We do members content very regularly now. If you missed some of the recent updates, with the huge influx of membership from gifted members, we're going to be ending every day with a member segment. Sometimes it'll be very brief. Today's will be brief, just to give you guys some updates on things that are in the Discord, things to make you known about, an update to the coffee and everything else. And then some days it'll be like an after party with the roundtable or gameplay. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you're getting those noties as a member. I try to ping the community tab. I also try to ping the Discord and Twitter and everywhere else, which I'm going to do in a moment. And I'm going to redirect everybody from the previous stream to come over. I'm going to end our stream. We did a reaction to Cyberpunk, and we did a